Hi everyone, we're from Catholic High School Malacca, and today we're going to talk about a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So today our group members have 8% with a teacher, and we're going to start with the teacher, the young teacher and the beautiful teacher, Juan Lu. And we have Yihan, which is with the Shenzhen uniform, and we have Zhong, who looks like a gamer and a boss. And we also have Johan, which is a YouTuber, a famous YouTuber. And next up we have Maximilian, and yeah, his face is big enough. And we have Hongtou, which is shaking his chair and look like he's going to die. Just kidding. And we also have THIAM with the plain background and Chen with the pink background. So we're going to talk about a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So I'm actually curious about getting in when we're doing wrong. Should we, I mean, how do we admit it? Hongso, do you have any idea from it?
Well, yes. If you are wrong, admit it. It sounds easy, but it is hard actually. Everybody makes mistakes. However, it takes real bravery to admit it. You make mistakes even if you are rich, wise, or famous. However, the ability to realize it and admit your mistake is what sets you apart from other people. I'm pretty sure all of you have been made a mistake once, and well, do you guys ever admitted your mistakes? Well,
Sure.
Well, I bet you guys feel relieved, satisfied. That's because criticizing yourself is way better than being criticized by others. So, I like to discuss this with an interesting story. There was once a boy who let his dog out without a leash. The policeman saw him and was furious and was going to arrest him the next time he did it again. However, he didn't care. He did it again 1 month later. And surprised, he was caught by the police. However, he immediately admitted his fault and told the policeman he won't do it again. The policeman became compassionate and he forgave him and told him to play where he cannot see him. And thus, the story ends with a happy note. And if you want to learn more about how admitting your mistake can make a better life out of you, you can read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. And this just emphasizes how important the admit your mistake is, as it could help you in your daily lives in many ways. And that's all from me. Back to you, Brian.
You're welcome, Hongso. It's true that admitting your mistakes is very important in our daily life, especially in this society. And I actually have a question. What if the boy do not admit his mistakes? Instead, he just replied to the policeman with a rude talking and very, very bad manners.
Well, I reckon the policeman will probably just call to his mom and just tell his mom to talk him off. Like that that makes like the kids' education really bad. And it will all start from their parents. Like their parents reflects to how their child is. Like if their child is like that, well, their parents most likely will be like that. If not, then probably the child is in the dark side of the world. Well, that's my opinion.
Oh wow, what an amazing opinion from Ihan. Thank you, Ihan. And we're going to move on with cooperation because we know that just now the story, the policeman needs cooperation with the citizen to make the society a better place to live. So, Tiamwei, do you have any idea of it?
Yeah, cooperation. What do you guys know about cooperation? Cooperation is an action or process of working together to the same end. which involves teamwork. It is very important to increase the productivity so the things or tasks can be done more quickly and efficiently. It can also resolve conflicts among the team members. However, it seems not every team can have good cooperation among themselves, and thus the primary objective of increasing the work efficiency is not achieved. Now the question is, how do we get cooperation? Let me begin with a story. A salesman who sold artist sketches called a leading stylist once a week. The leading stylist never refused to see the salesman, but he never bought any sketches from the salesman. After a lot of times of failure, he tried to study human behavior. After that, he used new ways, which is he gave the buyers unfinished artist sketches so that they can complete them. Finally, all the sketches were accepted. In conclusion, we should let the other person feel that we appreciate and take his ideas on consideration. When we are able to make him feel that the idea is his or hers and he is important, he will be more willing to join or participate to our team. The ideas contributed will also be more likely to be accepted if they were given by the teammates themselves. That's all from me. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Tiamwei. It's true that cooperation is really important, especially in this society full of humans, because we are the living things that has emotions and other thinkings. So cooperation is true important, but is there any way that we can, or formula that we can get close to others people? Johan, what do you think about it?
Well, thank you for asking, actually. Well, there is actually, and about the formula that I'm going to talk about, well, this formula tends to relate to our actual daily life rather than being used on a certain calculation like, who do you think you are? You're Albert Einstein, E equals mc squared? No. Okay, so there's this story that I'm going to talk about where in a situation a person said something harsh to his wife, and that made her felt very, very upset. Of course, no one likes being criticized, as we were talking about earlier. Well, after that, that made their evening mood bad. He didn't, but he didn't want this kind of situation to continue on. So he picked up this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and found out that there's actually a solution, a way, a formula that he can use to clear up the bad relationship that they have had for the past few days. Well, upon doing that, their mood became better. His wife's mood got better, of course, and their relationship became better, and thus making their evening mood way better than before. In another situation where a person saw some teenagers that were playing around with fire on a field, which is really, really bad if you actually think about it logically. Like, who would even play fire in the middle of a field? Do you want to start a fire? So he was very furious and anxious, as that kind of ad will lead to a lot of problem. Ironically, he also read this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, by Dale Carnegie. And he applied this formula at that situation. After doing so, the teenagers immediately stopped. without showing any discomfort or any restraint. Okay, that's all I'm going to talk about. If you want to know more about this formula that I'm talking about, check out the book How to Win Friends and for Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Johan. What an interesting story shared. And it's true that the formula to to get friends is very important because it makes us to get like instantly. And back to the point, what do you think about letting people to like you instantly, Maxi? What do you think about?
Okay, thank you for asking me. How was your feeling when people like you? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you angry or amazed? But generally, we surely will feel amazed and happy. Let me start the story. A student who are good in doing projects. We can do projects by using handwork or others. For instance, we did a project of a water rocket. His water rocket was very functionable and useful. When his friends saw him present the water rockets, his friends was jealous and wanted to ask him about the procedure, about the things, about the steps, how to do the water rocket. Since that, his friends started to learn how to do projects about handworks together with the student. They do together every time. The students was liked by many of his friends and liked by other teachers. People and others, his friends, can develop a project to make a project, a function project together with him and present out, and they can show up their projects. Through this, through this short story, we must make people feel that we are important because you can do something together. People will feel you are an important person because you can provide the things that are useful to somebody, and people will like you because of your advantages. Okay, I would like to give it to our Mr. Chairman, Brian Tan. Thanks.
Thank you, Maxi. If you want to learn more about how to make people like you instantly, sure to read this book, How to Influence and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's true that getting liked by people is one of the one of the things that everyone wants to. And I'm actually curious, can smiling make people like you instantly?
Yeah, it actually can. Well, there's a lot of people who doesn't smile in this world, and have you ever noticed that usually they don't success in their life because of what? Because of anxiety and depression effects. And what should you do if you don't feel like smiling usually? First of all, you can force yourself to whistle while being home alone or hum a tune. It can make you feel happy in the inside. And smiling is very benefits in our daily life since it may solve a lot of problems. For example, like in our working area or communicating with our coworkers. And there's this person called Robert Cryer. He shared his experience while he was being a manager of a computer department, and he found the right application for the hard field position. This time of the day, he was desperately trying to recruit a co-worker to work for him, and he found one. After a few several phone calls, he knew that the young man got several offers from other companies, and many of them are known popular greater than his. Fortunately, the young man accepted his offer, and Robert Croy was confused and shocked at the moment. The young he asked the young man about why did you choose my company instead of others? The young man replied, Well, the thing is because I can feel that you're so excited to see me during our conversation, and compared to others, it was just like another business transaction called a stone cold conversation. And that's why smiling can solve a lot of problems when we needed help in the nick of time. And that's all for me.
Thank you, Chito. It's true that smiling makes us a lot of benefits because it is actually a facial expression that shows our happiness to others, and people can do that too. We can also influence people by that. So if you want to know more about how smile can change your life a lot, sure to read this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Next up, we're going to talk about others. What is others? Hong, what do you think about it?
Thank you, Brian. Okay, asking questions not only makes an order more palatable, it often stimulates the creativity of the person whom you ask. People are more likely to accept an order if they have had a part in the decision that caused the order to issue. Let me ask you something. What is the definition of order? Ordering food? Order 1 cup of coffee? No. Anyway, the meaning of order is to give instructions to others. For instance, you order an assignment to your workers and request them to finish it within 2 days. They will think that it seems impossible for them to accept the order. Instead of pushing the workers to accelerate their work and rush the orders through. Anyway, you can call everybody together and explain the situation to them. Then start to ask questions like, is there anything we can do to handle this order? The employees came up many ideas, and at the end they accept the order and approach it with a we can do it attitude. On second thought, let's talk about another story. Once there was a biographer who interviewed a man who worked with Owen DeYoung. If you want to know more about Owen DeYoung, you can Google it or read this book to find out more. Anyway, the man been talking about Owen when he first joined forces with him. Owen gave direct orders by asking questions and or giving a suggestion. For instance, what should we do during the summer break? Go to the beach? Or maybe come back to the company and work? He let them have the chance to think. Do you think everyone would follow his orders? Well, he just gives them suggestions and not direct orders, obviously. If you're having problems of being confident, I suggest you read this book titled How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Thank you, Johan. It's true that ordering people around makes people to be somehow mad at you sometimes. And I'm curious, is there any way that we can make people too glad to do what we want?
Well, there most likely yes. Like, according to a psychology study, no one likes being ordered around. Like, who in their right mind would even want people to tell them what to do? We all want to be ourselves. We want to think that we're always right to a certain extent, and to think that we will always do the right thing at the right time. Well, that's kind of impossible, actually. What I'm going to talk about is, well, ordering people around makes people mad, but you can actually do something so that they are glad to do, like, from what you're giving them, and they're going to be glad. Well, let's say I'm the boss of a big company, of a major company with a lot of people there. Well, a lot of people means a lot of attitude. Different attitudes by people showing their faces at different situation. They can be good, they can be bad, they can show like their discomfort at any situation at all. Well, as the boss, I can't be too cocky. I can't be bossy to my subordinates because, as I say, no one likes being ordered around. That's why I need to think of a way to make sure my subordinates are satisfied with the job that they've taken from me, of course, and they wouldn't like complain anything. That makes me a good boss, probably. And this reflects to the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So if you want to find out more about this type of scenario, please again check out this book. And there's also this situation during the Imperial era. A person named Bryan stumbled upon a chance to get his name down history. President Thomas Woodrow Wilson, the president of America during that time, needed to pick someone out for the service. He didn't pick Bryan, but instead he picked Bryan's best friend instead because he thinks that Bryan's best friend is more suitable for this job than Bryan. Although Bryan like voluntarily and with full-heartedly volunteered for this service. But in the end, he just couldn't get the job. After Bryan's friend got this news, he immediately knew that he couldn't dodge a situation where he needs to tell Bryan this thing, like this bad news to him. Like he knows that Bryan wants to go for this service really badly, but of course he didn't know what his intentions, his real intentions are, and he needed to think of a way to not upset him when he's telling him this news. As I said, he's his best friend. Like being a best friend, like you wouldn't want your friend to be sad. Like anyone would be sad if you see your best friend being like in a bad mood or something like this. And of course, that's where I'm going to end it. If you want to find out more, please check out the book How to Win Friends and Influence by Dale Carnegie. Pass to you, Bryan. That's all from me.
Thank you, Johan. Thanks for the epic story that you have shared with us. It's true that we don't like to see our best friend to get in sad mood, especially when when you're just took his place. But if you want to know more, really, please read this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. If I'm not mistaken, I saw a word spur when I'm going through this story. And if I'm not mistaken, it's also a title of a story. So can anyone tell me about it?
You are asking about a spur, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so what spur did you see? What kind of shape? What kind of usage? What spur did you see, Mr. Bryan?
If I'm not mistaken, I think the spur is the gear thing behind the boots of a cowboy. Is it true?
It is true, and it's good that you know it's called a spur. A spur is also a basketball team located in San Antonio, Texas, and it's also the Y-shaped goalpost thing that you use for kicking in American football. But, well, there's another definition for spur, which I am going to be using today, which is to rise, to elevate, to bring up others. Okay, now, an old friend of my father, Pete Barlow, was a circus conductor. Leading a circus act, he trained dogs for lifetime. Now, considering that, well, he feeds dogs treats or meat when they do a trick properly, why don't we use the same, well, common sense when we're training humans? Because, well, we're all living things. We technically work the same way. Well, I don't literally mean like when a human being does something good, you give them meat, candy, treat. They'll think you're trying to like kidnap them or something, because the education these days aren't too bad. Anyways, what you should do is give them praise. Give them that little spark, that little hope in life, so that they'll have the means to keep on living and keep on improving. A world-renowned psychologist, Jess Lair, wrote this in his book. Okay, I'm just gonna quote this. Praise is like sunlight to the warm human spirit.
We cannot flower and grow without it. And yet, while most of us are only too ready to apply to others the cold wind of criticism, history is wait, sorry. We are somehow reluctant to give our fellow the warm sunshine of praise. End quote. For anyone who thinks that I'm just making this up, I'm just using a bunch of different facts to have continuity with my points of Spur having philosophy. History is replete with the stunning illusions of the sheer witchery of praise. For instance, there was once a boy in Naples, Italy, who dreamt of being a singer. Despite his teacher saying that he has no good voice, his mother encouraged him and praised him for every vocal improvement he made. The mother's love was probably strong enough to defeat Voldemort if any Harry Potter readers are here. Well, but that's not important. Anyway, the compassion of love that the mother has shown continued to propel the boy in a way that, no one would imagine since the boy started off badly. The boy eventually improved and went on to become one of the most renowned, one of the most famous 20th century opera singers. I'm talking about Enrico Caruso from Italy. But on another occasion, a boy from London aspired to be a writer. Unfortunately, everything seems to be against him. He only had 4 years of education. His father was thrown into jail for unpayable debts. He was almost dying from hunger. Day after day, his hopes of being a writer dimmed. Story after story rejected. He became less and less confident in himself. Thankfully, on one fateful day, his manuscript was accepted and even praised. The praise, the recognition that he got from one single paper to be published, to be put in print, was what propelled him into writing, classics like Oliver Twist. Some people that will follow English literature would know who I'm talking about. It is, of course, the great Charles Dickens. The point I am making here that if we want to help others in their pathway to success, we must praise every improvement and any improvement. And also, we must praise it in a sincere manner for motivation. Thank you, Ryan. I'll end it here.
Thank you, Chen, for the good rattling story, to be honest. And it's true that success is accumulated through little improvements in our daily life. And praising is the key to the success. So praising actually makes us friendly too. Wei, what do you think about it?
Okay, thank you, Brian. This is probably relates to honey. Who doesn't know about honey? The sensational amber liquid that is usually very sweet. Would anyone accept that honey would also transfer philosophy? A famous bedtime story, The Sun and the Wind, pictured the competitiveness between two natural super beings. The sun and the wind were having a furious debate between them to determine who is stronger and overall better than the other beings. When an old man with a cold came by, the wind decided the way to end the debate is that the being to take off the old man's coat is the winner and superior to the other. The wind started with a vigorous and unfriendly way, blowing heavily until the surrounding almost formed a tornado. In the end, the wind lost to the warm sun. Here comes the million-dollar question. How did the sun succeed? Interest viewers may read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie to find out. The point I'm trying to make here is that we should begin everything in a friendly manner when interacting with others. Offending someone would make them unhappy. On the contrary, opening with a friendly tone can turn foes into friends. It is just like the sweet honeys can attract bees. That's all from me. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Tianwei, for the classical story, which is The Sun and the Wind. Who knows that the classical story, A Sun and the Wind, can mean a lot in our daily life, and especially in this case. So it's actually quite interesting. So to those who are interested in this outcome of the story and the meaning behind it, be sure to read out this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Next up, we're going to talk about interests. Interests are like hobbies to others, and people have different hobbies, really. And Maxi, what do you know about it?
Thank you for Brian for asking me. First of all, what we know about interest. Interest can be something that you like or fully admire about it, something. You sure will do and focus well on your interest. What is the importance of interest in our daily life? The interest can help us to success something or achieve something by smoothly, by easier, if we have an interest about doing something. Let me start a short story. A woman who likes baking cakes. She baked a lot of cakes during our movement control order period. She has posted she has posted her baked cakes, her cookies that she baked to the social media. Her friends look at her cakes and cookies and give a good comment that her cakes looks delicious. And her friends also quite interesting about bakings. Her friends wanted to learn baking cookies and cakes with the woman. And the woman's friends started to learn baking cakes and cookies through online during the movement control period. Her friends started to bake cakes, cookies, and others. She also cooked. Her friends also bake out the cookies that was delicious, and he started to interest in baking cakes and cookies. The woman had influenced many of her friends to interest in baking cakes and cookies. The, Her friends started to sell her baking and cookies throughout the our throughout. For the most in the conclusion, we must talk in terms of other people's interest. We must can influence people to interest in our interest part. We can give some ideas about our interest to others so that we can influence our friends, others to interest in your parts. Give some ideas so that we can together to do something and achieve a success. Thank you. Brian, our Miss Chairman, please continue.
Thank you, Maxi. It's true that interesting people is very important in daily life because we can make a lot of friends out of it, and we can also fill in our empty times with the interest. And it's just like how we are doing right now because we have the same interest in reading books. And that's why we are here right now and sharing this book. So, move on, we're going to talk about argument. Who will who won't make an argument in our life? Because this life is full of opinions and emotions. Hongcho, what do you think about arguments?
Well, what I think of arguments is that you can't win one. That's because both the arguers in an argument are the victim. I believe that we have been in lots of arguments along our lives, whether with close ones, families, our friends, whatever. An argument can start with the slightest disagreement or movement. So it is really hard not to argue with someone. But how do we make the best out of it? And that is to not argue, but to discuss. During an argument, it can cause lots of things. It can break the relationship, cause wars. It is really bad. And nobody likes an argument. After every argument, you maybe feel a sense of achievement, but you just feel tired. Why the hell do I have to yell at this guy? Like, why? So I would like to discuss this with another story. Well, there was once a manager who was in who was called to dinner by his officers. And being someone from the army, he likes to argue and like to show superiority. And there was one guy who told him a quote from the Bible, but he does not think that it was from the Bible. So he called his friend, who was an expert in books. And the friend told that the storyteller was right. However, when they were in private, his friend told him that he was right. He was furious and was about to argue with him. But his friend told him, what's the point of arguing with him? It will just ruin your relationship and make him hate you or something. So he learned a valuable lesson, and that you can't win an argument. And the best to make out of an argument is by avoiding it as much as possible. Using this lesson, he became a teacher to help other people learn this lesson, and that is you can't win an argument. Uh, yeah. If you want to learn more, you can read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. How when he became a teacher, who did he help? How did he help? And what happens next? And that's all from me, I guess. So back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Hongcho. What an amazing story shared by Hongcho. It's true that arguments only makes victims and will make our relationship become worse and worse. And at the end, we won't have any good outcomes from it. And if you want to know more, please check out this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And we know that argument is actually a trouble. And how can we avoid being troubled?
Alright, thank you, Brian. And what to you guys? What does it mean by if you don't this, you're headed for trouble? Does it mean by having an argument or having a fight with strangers? No, that's not the meaning by it. And it's actually using people's name as your advantage. And what does it mean by it again? Well, Andrew Carnegie shares his life experience on how to be successful in life. When he was a child, he got a hold of rabbit, and it's a mother rabbit, and soon had a whole nest of little rabbits, and Andrew got nothing to feed them, so he found out a way, which is telling the kids in his neighborhood about the rabbits and asking them if they would give the money and they could have the right to name the rabbits. So the kids give them the money and Andrew have the ability to feed the rabbits. And this is one of the things he learned when he was a child. A few years later, he was battling against George Pullman for the supremacy in the railroad shipping car business, and he remembered the lesson of the rabbits. They were competing each other by slashing prices, barking each other. And Carnegie asked Pullman, why shouldn't we work together to make the company great together? But Pullman wasn't interested at all at first, but he finally asked, what would you name the company when we work together? Carnegie replied, why? The Pullman Company. The Pullman Police Car Company, of course. Pullman's face was brightened up and he invited him to his office to talk about it furthermore. And their talk made the industrial history. So, remembering people's name or using it will be an advantage for us in daily lives and maximize the uses of it as a advantage. It is a must be, so make it so we need to make it as our advantage so we can use it. And if you want to learn more how Andrew Carnegie succeeded in his life and experience for other people, you can buy this. You can read this book on how to win friends and influence people. And that's all for me.
Thank you, Chizong. It's true that remembering someone's name is important in our daily life because sometimes we will forget it and people get mad at us, of course. And sure, if you want to if you want to know more about the story, please read this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Talk about making mistakes. Forgetting someone's name is also mistakes. So, what is mistakes, and what can we do about it? Yuhong, what do you think about it?
Everybody makes mistakes, even parents and teenagers like us. We do make mistakes, right? When I was a kid, I made a mistake like broking my mother's favorite flower pot or forgot this and that. Until now, I make mistakes too. This is the first time I have a job. For some reason, I don't know any experience back then. I have a mature friend. He was quite experienced. Furthermore, he taught me everything that I have to know when applying for this job. And I started doing it at first, even though I made tons of mistakes. But at the end, my senior criticized me by telling me that he also made mistakes when he first applied for his job. For your information, as a senior or a manager, if your workers who are first time applying for the job and make some mistakes for the first time, just forgive them. If they did make mistakes, again, try start to criticize them. In another situation, I became a manager of a company and have a partner that was younger than me, and her job is to be a secretary. By the way, she was new here. So she kept makes mistakes all the time. She always got complained by others. Sooner, I started to criticize her. Let me ask you something. Is criticizing someone bad? It depends on the situation. For instance, when someone is doing something wrong, you criticize them so that they would learn. If someone made a small mistake, criticism isn't needed and could be replaced with a reminder instead. You don't criticize to make someone feel bad, rather to make them improve and learn from failures. However, something happened after I criticized her. If you want to know what happened to her, you are recommended to read this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Thank you.
Thanks, Yuhong. Such an interesting story and personal experience shared. And actually, I'm curious about something because we make mistakes every day, right? Like little mistakes and big mistakes. What do you guys think? What if we make a little mistakes? Should we criticize? I mean, what if people made the little mistakes, should we criticize him? And if not, why should we?
May I answer this question for, well, everybody here? So, I agree with 100% with what Ryong said. Criticism is actually a very subjective term. You can see it from a lot of different angles. So, criticism actually means evaluating, judgment. So, a small mistake being made could also be criticized, but not in, shouting, hitting. Instead, you should just open up and just tell, for example, like Brian, he did not clean his wall. Maybe I can say, Brian, if you keep, if you just leave your wall like this, eventually you'll look at your closet and be like, nah, I can live with this. You look at your bed and be like, nah, I can live with this. So this one small mistake could be the first domino of a bunch of other big mistakes to come. So it's better to just, well, give other people criticism, but in a friendly manner, and be, well, how do you say, fair in your judgment.
Thank you, Chen, for sharing something so amazing and so interesting, and also a good example, to be honest. And move on, we're going to talk about Give a Dog a Good Name because I saw this title quite interesting and yeah, sure. Anyone can tell me about it?
Well, I guess I'm the only one left. So, giving a dog a good name, it could be viewed in various ways as well. So, giving a dog or getting a dog, well, dog is a man's best friend, right? So, your best friend is not just limited to one cute puppy. It could be anyone or everyone. Mine could be Brian, it could be Chizong, could be Maxi. It could be even be Banlu. You never know. So if you think from an ancient philosopher's way of thinking, you will know that giving a dog could actually be giving anyone, everyone. The other side of the word would be a good name. And by name, I don't literally mean like, for example, the chairman here is Brian Tan. It's not how I recognize him. It's not how I call him. Instead, name here means reputation, your face, well, what you live, what you try for. If you put these things together, it will mean give a dog a good name, giving anyone and everyone a good reputation to live up to. Now, I'm just gonna quote someone from here. Do you have, okay, I'm gonna be switching between voices a lot in my, you know, giving speech now. So this is Samuel Valclain. The average person, said Samuel Valclain, then president of Baldwin Locomotive Works, can be led readily if you have his or her respect, and if you show that you respect that person, some kind of ability. In other words, if you want to improve a person on a certain respect, act as though that particular trait has already been one of his or her outstanding characteristics in that pyramid. Shakespeare, William Shakespeare, said, assume a virtue if you have it. You probably use a little bit of British English in there, but this is the modern, nice version. And it might be well to assume and state openly that other people have the virtue you want them to develop. Give them a fine reputation to live up to, and they will make prodigious efforts rather than see a delusion. Georgette Leblanc, in her book Souvenirs, My Life with Maiden, describes the startling transformation of a humbling Belgian Cinderella. Again, I will be switching between voices for maximum, basically I want to get everything right and, well, not use my own sentences. I will be reading from, well, my information here. A seventh girl from she was called Naib, the Dishwasher. Her son started her career as a sky assistant. She was kind of a monster, also baggy legs, poor in flesh and spirit. One day, while she was holding my plate in her red hand, I said to her, "Madam, you do not know."
Hey, sorry for interrupting you, but I feel like you could fix your mic there. Like, I hear a hurricane right there. Try to fix it up. Like
my
your story is really interesting. I want to listen to it like more. So yeah.
Sure, no problem. Well, technical difficulties are always, well, being shown. Okay, testing. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
It's better now.
I am
Thank
very
you.
sorry, so I will start again from the story. A servant girl from a neighboring hotel brought my meals, she wrote. She was called Mary the dishwasher because she had started her career as a scullery assistant. She was a kind of monster, cross-eyed, bandy-legged, poor in flesh and spirit. One day, while she was holding my plate of macaroni in her red hand, I said to her point blank, Mary, you don't know what treasures are within you. Accustomed to holding back her emotion, Mary waited for a few moments, not daring to risk the slightest gesture of emotion for catastrophe. Then she put the dish on the table, sighed, and said ingenuously, Madame, I would never have believed it. She did not doubt. She did not ask a question. She simply went back to the kitchen and repeated what I had said. And such is the force of faith that no one made fun of her. From that day on, she was even given a certain consideration. But the most curious change of all occurred in the humble Mary herself. Believing she was the tabernacle of unseen marvels, she began taking care of her face and body so carefully that her star of youth seemed to bloom, and modesty hid her plainly. 2 months later, she announced her coming marriage with the nephew of the chef. I'm going to be a lady, she said, and thanked me. A small phrase has changed her entire life. Well, this is now my voice. So, as you can see, Georgette LeBlanc, in her book, has given Mary the dishwasher a reputation to live up to, and that reputation has transformed her just from one single sentence. On another occasion, there was a woman in China. She was a secretary, and well, one time she lost her receipt. That receipt, if not handed in to the authorities, would cost her company thousands. So she put up her wanted note for the receipt, and well, a $1,000 prize for the receipt in return. She went to the nearest police office to report, and after a few minutes, she got a reply. A young boy by the age of 16 to 17 has her, well, wallet, but inside the wallet it was empty. The credit cards, gone. The money, gone. Even shillings, gone. But most importantly, the receipt is not there. She, she would be fired, she would be killed. But instead of blaming the boy for having something that is, well, perfectly identical, but having nothing in it, she instead forgave the boy, not forgave. She instead thanked the boy for his efforts, and, well, she left the police office. At night, after work, she walked in disappointment of herself and was thinking, how is she going to be responsible to thousands of dollars? Instead, well, she was met with something very unusual. Well, someone hit her in the waist. But with what? A paper bag. Inside the paper bag was her lost credit cards, her lost money, but most importantly, her receipt. But beside the receipt, there was one specific note, one blue papered note. And the note wrote, Madame, thank you for giving me faith and believing me for today. I was once accused of stealing money when I returned someone else their wallet. And from that day on, I swore that I would never hold back and mercilessly just take whatever I want. But today, you have shown me the true faith I have, that I should have in mankind. And I thank you for teaching me this valuable life lesson. So from this, you can see that, well, giving a dog a good name, giving other people a reputation to live up to is a very helpful thing and something that will have a basis on everybody's success. So The moral of the story is you must give other people a fine reputation to live up to. Thank you, and I end here.
Thank you, Jinchen. First off thought, I think that giving a dog a good name is actually naming a dog, but I never thought that it has a deep philosophy behind it. Thank you, Jinchen, for the interesting and amazing story shared and the interesting personality. And in a conclusion, after reading this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, we know that there's a lot of ways that can change our life in terms of smiling and in terms of not ordering people around and also interest people by their interests and hobbies. And we're going to end our discussion here. And again, we're from Catholic High School Malacca, and we have 8 members in our group with a teacher, our lovely teacher Puan Lu, and Yihan with the St. John uniform suit,
Sup?
Chi who looks like a boss and with a gaming headset, and Yu Hong, the YouTuber,
Hello.
Maximilian, who has a big face, Hong Chou, yeah, the handsome guy, Tiam with the plain background, and Dian Chen with the amazing personality. And I think we're going to stop here. Thank you.